Hey, third and fourth graders, happy Thursday. A couple days ago in Bible, we learned about baby Isaac being born and Hagar and Ishmael being sent away and God hearing them and caring for them. And now Isaac is a little bit older. Some people would say that he's probably about 13 or 14 during the story. So I know my picture's kind of small. But he is somewhere probably between your age and an eighth grader. And this story in the Bible is called Abraham Tested. Now, you guys have lots of tests in school. We have Bible tests, we have social studies tests, we have math tests, we have all of these tests. Well, Abraham had a test too. Not necessarily one that he completed with paper and pencil and got a grade for, but as we'll talk about at the end of this story, it was still a sort of test that God was giving him to see what he had learned. So, without further ado, before we start, we're going to look at, this story talks about an altar. Okay, and an altar is a place where people would give sacrifices and worship. So in this story, we're going to be talking about an altar, and it was usually stones piled on top of each other, and a place where they would sacrifice an animal to bring honor to God, and they would then pray to God, and it would show that they were worshiping God and wanting to honor Him. So when you hear the word altar, that's what that is. Okay? All right, here we go. We are in Genesis chapter 22 today. So let me get the Bible out and ready, get everything situated. All right, it said sometime later, so years later, God tested Abraham. Abraham, it's time for a test. He said to him, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Not his only son, the son that Abraham has waited 100 years for, Isaac. The one that God promised him. He shouldn't have to give that up, right? What do you think Abraham's going to do? I know what I would do. Run! There's no way. Verse 3. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, so they're walking and walking and walking. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you. All right, so they're going to walk up to the mountain. So this is kind of the mountain area over here. All right. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. And he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, Father? Abraham answered, yes, my son. The fire and wood are here, Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Where's the animal that we are going to offer to God? Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the 2 of them went on together. What is the lamb for the sacrifice? God said that it would be Isaac. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar. Well, bam. He built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son. Now remember, Isaac is not a little baby. Isaac is probably old enough that he could take 100-year-old man and overpower him. But Isaac trusts his father, and Isaac, they handcuff him, and they bind him, and he puts Isaac on the altar. Now, he bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham, Abraham!" "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket, or a bush, there in the thicket, he saw a ram caught by his horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, because you have shown faith and trusted God, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring," or your kids, remember, "all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me." Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba. Wow. That story is very intense. God has been teaching Abraham to trust him. Abraham did not trust God when he went to Egypt and told Pharaoh that Sarai was his sister, right? He failed that little lesson, and God taught him. God also taught him with Lot and showed Abraham again and again and told Abraham, "You can trust me." And now today we had the test. How did Abraham do? Wow. We saw amazing faith. Abraham was willing to trust God and give up something he loved so much because he trusted God more, that his plan was good. Little sneak peek, I think, because who else do you know gave up his one and only son? Yeah, God gave up his one and only son, Jesus. So we see even in the Old Testament little sneak peeks of Jesus, right? Even though this is not Jesus, it's kind of a little like a hint of Jesus coming in years to come. And through all this, we can learn that God teaches. He's been teaching Abraham lots of things, and then he tests us. He gives us things where he's like, "Okay, show me. Have you learned? Do you trust me?" And he does this to make our faith stronger. Some of you guys might be going through some hard times right now. Some of you guys won't know what hard times and tests look like until you're older. But through all of those things, when he's teaching and testing us, he's trying to make our faith stronger and grow us closer to God. So we can always trust him, even though I think Abraham probably thought, "Oh my word, this is crazy." But he still trusted God. And if Abraham can trust God with his one and only son Isaac, we can trust God with anything. All right, guys. See you tomorrow.